Good morning and welcome to our second part of our Inside Franklin Athletics, the State of the Athletics podcast. I am Brian Powers, and with me is our athletic director, Bill Doty. Bill, how are you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me on. And Brian, I appreciate you keeping this active and this podcast and giving the chance to share and communicate out what our reentry plan is going to look like. So I really appreciate you doing this, taking the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So it looks like you are keeping up with general appearances. You are shaving and cutting your hair.
Yes. I knew I was going to be on a widely watched podcast today, so I felt like I should at least look like I know what I'm doing. So
as opposed
I don't know if that's looks can be deceiving.
Yeah, I don't know. So I think I was talking to my wife about it, and I have a couple more weeks, I think, with this hair.
I like it.
Whatever. And then once I have to go back in the office, I think I'm going to cut it. But the beard, I said I was going to wait until they started practicing at the Speedway before I cut it. So that wouldn't be like another 2 more months. So we'll see.
We'll see what it looks like. Yeah.
I look forward to it'll probably be shaved.
Everybody start calling you Cornelius.
Yes. I have heard that plenty of times. So, all right. Well, last week we talked to you and we kind of went over what the plan was, and now we kind of have it a little bit more concrete. It was approved by the school board last night, and so things will be going into place here shortly. And if you just kind of want to, what I'll do is I'll share it. So if someone's viewing this, then they can see the reentry guide. But if they're just listening, then you're going to go over it. So we'll just go ahead and do that.
Okay. And while you're bringing that up, just so everybody's aware, the full reentry plan, the school district has worked with the Johnson County Health Department to put that in place. And so our piece is just a small piece of that full school district-wide reentry plan. And then so what we're showing here is a basic summary of that plan. It's a one-page document that's easily read. We hope it's easily read and easily understood for coach and player expectations, and it's part of a bigger plan. So I guess I would say, first off, if anyone after watching this podcast or reading through this one-page document still has questions, because there's still a lot out there. It's kind of we're going to get through this, start July 6th to the 19th. But if you still have questions, feel free to contact me directly. There you see my phone number and email address on that document. So don't hesitate to reach out. I'll do the best I can. Email is the most preferred. That's my office number. But email me and I'll get back to you as soon as I can if you have questions about any expectations or requirements of student athletes and coaches.
If they really need to get in touch with you, I do have your cell phone number, and I can get that for a nominal fee.
Yeah, and I will pay you doubling to not send that out. No, it's fine. I'm available to be reached at anywhere, anytime, just because I know there's going to be a lot of questions, and I want to get the word out. But to respond as quick as I can, email is the best way. So appreciate it.
All right. Yep. All right, so we want to take a look at the phases that we got. I know we've talked about them, and this just lays it out a little bit more.
Yeah, so we're in 3 phases for our reentry, and this is based on Appendix C of the 38-page in-class document that we received from the DOE, and they worked in concert, obviously, with the governor's office and the IHSAA. Appendix C really covered extracurricular activities, co-curricular activities. And so phase 1 of this reentry plan for us, and we're talking athletes, we're talking sports, is July 6th through the 19th. And phase 2 is July 20th through August 14th. And there's a little complexity within phase 2 that I'll cover here in just a minute. But phase 3 then begins fall contest. That's when our first contest can happen. And then you'll see under their spectator and event management capacity levels, that's really to be determined yet. We as a school district, we're wrestling with what will be August 15th. We know we can, according to the governor and DOE, we can have spectators,
Right.
but what's the right thing to do for Franklin Community Schools? We really want to work on that with our mid-state conference peers and our county ADs and principals and superintendents as well. So county and conference, we're really working through that. We hope we're consistent. I don't know that we actually will be, but we're working on it. We want to do that.
With that, I know you've talked about talking to the county and to the conference and wanting to be consistent across the board. Is this something where, though, ultimately it is going to be the school corporation's call? For instance, if they don't necessarily agree, like let's say one of the schools says, we're going 100% capacity, and you or Dr. Clendenning or Mr. A House is just like, I just do not feel comfortable with that ultimately it's your decision.
That is correct. And much like this, everything else has really been put down to the local level on decision making. From all the way up top to the federal government and what the CDC puts out, those are recommendations. And then it just trickles down from there, and ultimately pretty much everything has come down to local decision making based on recommendations and knowledge that we receive from state and federal government. So yes, to answer your question, it's really going to be what's best for Franklin Community Schools, and that's what we'll do. So, but I guess time will tell. We want to see what happens for the rest of July. There's obviously a lot of travel sports going on right now where spectators are attending. We want to see what happens throughout the rest of July with the reopening of our state, basically, and I think that'll help guide our decision on capacity levels for spectators. And again, I think if people go back and if they were able to watch the last podcast, we are working on a pay-per-view option for those people that, even if we are open 100% for spectators, there may be some that don't want to come and don't want to be around and put themselves take any risk of being in public place where they may not be able to adhere to social distancing guidelines.
Right.
So pay-per-view option will be available. So we're hopeful that we'll have that set up and ready to go. So
okay.
Yeah. So going back to phase 1, let's pick phase 1. That's July 6th to the 19th. Next week begins that phase 1. Monday's July 6th. So a couple things within phase 1 that we want to touch on. You'll see there it says no more than 15 hours a week. That is, a student athlete cannot participate in any activity, be it conditioning or sport specific activity through multiple sports for more than 15 hours a week. Okay. And so 4 days of conditioning are allowed. Those 4 days can be consecutive days, but the 2 days of sport specific activity cannot be consecutive. So those cross country, all those coaches have sent their schedule for July 6th to the 19th. It's been approved to me, and they've sent that to me. And we have made sure that those athletes will not be participating more than what is allowed. And that came from the IHSA. That is not a district level. We're taking that recommendation absolutely, with what it is, and working with that 100%. So, if you have a football player that is also a basketball player, and we do have we'll have a basketball opportunity a couple days a week, that athlete may be able to go 12 hours with football and a few hours with basketball that week, but that would be it. So that's phase one right here. And I'm going to go all the way down. If you can, Brian, I want to skip the general expectations and go down to some administrative requirements.
Okay.
Because this is really important for phase one. And I want to say that all summer activity, phase one, phase two summer activity is completely voluntary. Okay. So I want to make parents and student athletes aware, and coaches obviously know this, but it's completely voluntary. You don't have to participate right now, starting next week, to be eligible for the first official practice or tryout, which is August 3rd. Okay. Mm-hmm. So if you feel comfortable coming and being a part of this, that's okay. This is a parent and guardian's decision to send your kid to be on campus and to work out. It is completely their decision. All right. I want to make it clear. But in doing so, if they say, yep, we want to send our son or daughter and they're going to start working out, start, getting together with their classmates, we will require a 2020-21 health history update questionnaire to be completed and signed, and also the consent and release certificate completed, signed, and submitted. And this is in lieu of the required pre-participation physical evaluation form that every year every student athlete has to have on file. If you remember, and we talked about this last podcast, the IHSAA early on, I think it may have been back in March or April, early on they said we will waive the need for a 2020-21 pre-participation physical evaluation form, and we can just go with what's on file, a 2019-20 form that's on file for this upcoming year, just because we knew it's going to be difficult for the medical professionals to get your physical forms and get all these done. We typically have a night in April where we offer, from Johnson Memorial Health, their doctors come in and we do all the physicals that night. Obviously, weren't able to do that, so this is in lieu of that. These two forms have to be signed and filled out in lieu of that pre-participation physical.
Okay.
So if you are that, and that's for anyone, unless they're a brand new student coming to us from out of state, they moved here, then they will need to have a new physical on file. This is any returning student, including incoming freshmen, that have a 2019-20 physical on file for us. Okay. Does that make sense? Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you can see those next two bullet points there really illustrate that. When they receive this health history update questionnaire, they'll be able to see that if you answer yes to any question on there, and some of it's COVID related, then they'll have to go get a new physical form evaluation, physical evaluation form completed. So, so those are going to be requirements. Phase one, July 6th, when those kids show up on campus for a workout, whether it be just coming to work out in the weight room or maybe out on the soccer field, whatever it may be, the coach is going to meet them. Everybody's going to have face covering on at that time, and they're going to go through and hand out that form and require those student athletes, to bring that form back sometime that week. We need it on file. We want to have that form back that first week of July. Okay. All right. So, and our coaches will have, I just met with them yesterday, and so they're going to have this on file, or they'll have all these documents on with them to hand out to the kid, and then the kid just take it home with them, get everything signed, bring it back, and then they're going to be good to go. All right.
Okay.
So now we can kind of skip back up, if you don't mind. Slide back up to some general expectations. And again, we're staying in phase one, but most of these general expectations will carry out all the way through phase three and into the school year and into, when we're right into the middle of the season, all the way through the end of the season. That's what our plan is now, unless something changes. So basically, general expectations, everyone, including, we're talking about student athletes, managers, coaches, when they show up on campus for that day's activity, they're going to wash their hands with soap and water. Restrooms will be available, or they can use hand sanitizer before and immediately following any activity, any athletic activity. Okay. That weight room, or if they're going, if it's volleyball and they're going to be in the gym, they will wash their hands with soap and water or hand sanitizer prior to starting. Here's where we want to talk about face coverings.
Okay.
All right. And I want everybody to be aware that face coverings are recommended right now. And I believe our school district is really, we're asking teachers to wear them during classroom settings. Kids are going to wear them when they're on the bus, when they're in certain situations. For athletes, all athletes, managers, coaches are going to required to wear a face covering during any classroom setting, chalk talk, if you will, setting. And coaches will also wear face coverings while supervising the weight room.
Okay.
All right. So face coverings are not required when they're performing a physical activity.
Okay.
So if they're,
so anytime there's more of a teaching aspect.
Yeah. Teaching aspect, if they're in the classroom, they're going through watching a game film or whatever it may be. That's when face coverings are required. We believe it's not a good practice to be outside when it's 90 degrees, say, and we have a face covering on and they're engaged in a physical activity. And the IHSA would concur with this, and I think the DOE as well. It's not required at that time because that can pose a health risk for heat illness. There's other things we also need to pay attention to from the health aspect other than just COVID-19.
Yeah.
And that's not to diminish COVID-19 in this, but we've got to pay attention to.
You've got to take other things into account when it's going to be 92 degrees. Do you really want a kid out there wearing a face mask, or do you want, you don't want someone going down with a heat related issue when it's something you could have prevented.
Right. So, and again, if that was our local decision, that's what we've talked about this with the health department. If parents don't agree with that, that's okay. That's their decision. I'm just sharing this information so they have the best the most amount of knowledge and best information they can to make an informed decision whether they send their kid back into back to us in July and start back up. So, that's just, those are our beliefs, and we completely understand if parent or guardian disagrees with that, that's okay. It's completely voluntary. So, and so moving down with the next bullet points there, weight room equipment will be sanitized immediately following each session. We have 19 racks, stations in our weight room, and we have limited our weight room capacity to 50%. And again, we're talking phase one, July 6th to the 19th, and we're going to carry that on through the end of July as well and beyond. But we will restrict. So we set our weight room limit. We're going to limit 2 kids per rack. And so there'll be 38 kids in the weight room at one time. And those kids are going to work out with the same kids on the same rack each time they come into the weight room. And so they're going to be required to clean their equipment. We will have cleaning, we have wipes and all the cleaning materials equipment that we'll need for the kids to clean those racks, the barbells, those types of things, the benches, all that as soon as they're done with that workout session. Everything's going to be clean. And then the custodial staff will do a full cleaning as well at the end of the day. So they're going to take care of that weight room for us. So that's how we'll manage through that. Couple of things that parents and kids need to be aware of. They have to bring their own water bottle. We will not have shared water stations throughout this and until we may not have them at all throughout the fall, winter, spring season. But definitely for right now, come July 6th, make sure you have your own water bottle. Bring it full. Go ahead and bring a full water bottle with you, and then they'll be able to refill it in a couple different areas while they're here if they need to. All right. And then obviously their own gear and apparel. They're not to share any of their practice gear, apparel. They need to bring their own. They bring it with them. There's no locker rooms available. And so they will take everything back with them that day after practice and take it home. There's no laundry service available in phase 1. So we're asking all coaches, student athletes, managers, whatever you bring with you, take it back home, wash it immediately when you get home, and then be ready for the next day's activity or 2 days from then, whatever the schedule may be for them. Okay. We would recommend that since no locker rooms are available, that they shower immediately following a practice or workout. As soon as they get home, wash your clothes, take a shower, and you're good to go. Okay.
That's a smart practice anyways, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's just typical hygiene. That's what you should do, but we want to reinforce that as well.
Parents alike.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure our coaches do that, but I can't say that all athletes do that. So we want to make sure that we just keep hitting that home. Good hygiene. Absolutely. Yeah. So that is really, those are the general expectations that we've set down. And that's based from information that we received, recommendations that we've received from the state, our local health department, good practice, best practices for us. And that gets us through phase 1, July 6th to the 19th. July 20th picks back up. That's normal summer rules per the IHSA bylaws and policies will take effect at that point. However, all those general expectations are still going to be in effect for us. Okay.
Just practice-wise, everything is back to normal.
From a timing standpoint, correct. Right. The 15 hours a week, those types of things would go away, and we would just resume normal summer rules per IHSA guidelines. Okay. And then you can see within phase 2, which goes all the way to August 14th, girls golf is the one outlier with their start time. August 3rd is the official first start of fall practices or fall tryouts for all fall sports except girls golf. Girls golf is actually July 31st.
Okay.
They can get together. And they actually have some competitions prior to August 15th. So they're the one exception. So,
okay.
All right.
And then phase 3 is when hopefully everything starts, and we'll kind of know the spectator capacity levels and everything as we get a little bit closer, correct?
Right. Exactly. That's
we're trying to get back into the swing of things before we figure out all that stuff, right?
That's right. Mm-hmm. And, I think I said this last podcast and I reiterated to our coaches again, phase one, July 6th through the 19th, let's take it slow and make sure we understand that uh, not all kids have been working out. Not all kids have stayed in shape. Some have, which is great. I think a lot have, but there are some that have not, and they just didn't have the ability to work out, do whatever. So we're going to take those first 2 weeks and really focus on conditioning, and not so much the sport specific stuff. Although there will be some of that go on. That's fine, but we really want to get kids back in shape, and that's really the main focus. A couple other things that I want to hit on, and this is part of the full plan as well, is really the monitoring and screening aspect for COVID. So, and it's not on the general expectations of that one-page document, just because there's so much to it. What parents need to understand is that prior to every day's activity, the coach will take attendance. And while we know this is summer activity is voluntary, we have said, and in our full plan, that we will take attendance so that we can track and have contact tracing. We can share information if need be back to the health department. And so we're going to survey every day the coach, when they meet with their team. This is kind of my vision would be, athletes show up, they have face covering on, they're kind of in a classroom setting, if you will. Coach is going to have their attendance sheet, and they're going to go through their group and say, does anyone have experiencing a fever? Has anyone, experiencing headaches or chills? And go down through all the symptoms that the CDC has put on their list of COVID symptoms. And they're going to survey the kids and screen. We hope that kids and parents are self-screening before they come to us. But we also need to do our due diligence too and screen them before a practice or a workout as well. We're going to do that every time prior to any kind of practice. So they'll take attendance, and parents need to understand, and so do the kids. If anybody says, yeah, I've just experienced, I had breakfast this morning, but I've lost all my taste and smell, and I'm not feeling too well. Well, they're going to be sent home. Whatever. If anybody experiences any of those symptoms, they're going to be sent home. And at that time, I'll be notified as administrator, and then I'll talk to the parents and I'll work with them on what that means at that point, and talk through how it is that student athlete then is able to return to the team after a certain amount of time. Certain things fall into place for them and for that student athlete. Okay, but I don't want to get too deep into those weeds. That's just and that'll happen with the health department, and and along with the parent and guardian about what they need to do to take care of their own child. So
okay, all right,
all right. Yeah,
that. Yeah, I guess, is there anything else then, or we kind of cover it? I know there's a lot of information there, and there's a lot. You could probably go on for another 2 hours just talking about everything that's going to happen and everything like that. But I think it's a lot of stuff that we have to have in place for the sports and the school year to start up again. Yeah, absolutely. And I think if everybody just, take it slow, give grace. This is all new to us, to everybody. Just have patience, give grace, take things slow, and we'll all get through it. I mean, I know it's cliche now. We'll get through this together. We've all seen that. How many times have we heard that? But as we sit, on this podcast, those are true words. True words have never been said. So just
we'll get through it. We'll manage. You know, let's not be too hard on kids, not too hard on coaches. You know, this is all new to everybody, and let's just have a little patience with it. So
Yeah, sounds good.
We'll get back together. You know, I think the last thing that anybody wants is to miss another season for especially seniors. You know, we've already missed the spring for those that have graduated. We want to do everything we can to have a fall sports season.
And and I mean, even some kids, like, I missed the winter season, you know, with the basketball teams who had still been not necessarily our team, but the Greenwood Christian Academy. I think of them; they're ranked first in the state. This has been like the best year they've ever had. They're highly reliant on seniors, and poof, it's gone. So it's just that's the last thing we want for something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's make sure we do everything we can so that we can have a fall sports season, and it'll be good. Yep. So,
All right. Well, thank you so much, Bill. And hopefully at this time next week, we'll be getting that rolling, and we'll just see where it goes. I guess that's all we can do, right?
Yeah. I tell you, so I'm planning on sending this one-page document to all high school students. I'm just going to email it out, blast email. I'm going to put it on Twitter so the parents can see it as well. And I think we'll share this podcast out on our Twitter feed as well. So hopefully we just want to get the word out. And then also, you know, if anybody has any questions about when a specific sport is getting together, if they haven't been able, you know, if a coach hasn't contacted them, or if they're an incoming freshman and they don't really know quite where to go, or if they've recently moved to Franklin, they don't know anybody, use that email address, email me, and I'll get you in contact and with the right coach and get you going. So we don't want anybody to miss out.
Right, absolutely. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, Bill, and hopefully everything gets going well, and we can have our season, and all the Grizzly Cub teams can do us proud this year. So, for Bill Doty, I am Brian Powers, and this is Inside Franklin Athletics.